kay especially kung fruit shakes siya, mas healthy sa good siya kaysa sa milk tea. And then,
Preferred dog, same.
same.
Allergy ako sa cat. So, wala kayo
Allergy ako sa cat.
pagpili.
So, wala gid ako
Pero
maglisod
man sa
pagpili.
burger and fries, since I
Pero
love
man sa
both.
burger and fries, since I love
Naglibgo ko
both,
ano yung kapilian
so,
sa ila, pero
naglibgo kung ano yung kapilian sa ila, pero
matudakan ako sa burger kay
siguro mas
bawal
matuda
sa
ka na ako
daw
sa
kuman sa mga
burger kay
uwilon ko. Although uwilon
bawal
ang
sa gud ako
burger,
kuman
pero
sa
dili
mga
ko
uwilon ako.
na
Although uwilon ang burger, pero dili sa gud lang na
kuan gid siya at
kanang super
kaysa sa
kuan
fries
gid
na
siya
paano ka gid siya.
kaysa sa fries na gipaanuhan gid siya ng oil. Sa amo diya dati pre.
All right, thank you so much, Miss Elihorde. So yes, I got the point of Miss Elihorde. Well, thank you again. Now, yes, I agree that majority may say na it is
Sige,
just
sige.
very
Pag-aman
easy
ka
to
muna.
decide among those
Dalis na ka dali.
situations presented, especially if we base it on what we like or what we prefer, especially about food,
Maminaw, nasa lang
correct?
ako.
Now, you may ask, nganong kadtuman na nga to ang game? Does it seem related to our topic? Well, to say, yes, those game or that game will help us
Bagay gid ka te
understand
pre
as we
mag-education.
differentiate these normal situations to situations we called
Ganahan natin
as
sa iya.
dilemma. So let me go back to our very first page for this presentation, which includes the title. So when we say discerning, this means having or showing good judgment or showing insight and understanding. And when we say moral, according as well to the report of Group 1, this refers to the specific beliefs or attitudes that people have. Or simply, this refers to an individual's principles or principles about or regarding what is right or wrong. Or simply, ang moral para sa tua or this is our personal concept as to para sa tua what is right or what is wrong. How about dilemma? When we say dilemma, this refers to situations that challenges an agreeable. I know you may ask, nganong i-classified pa man siya as dilemma? Where in fact, in most cases or in most situations, we are challenged or ma-challenge ta as to what decision will we choose or what um, to decide or what solution ang ato ang buhaton. Now, para mas masabtan kung unsa ang dilemma, we will have this example. So, as students, we are obliged to follow rules and regulations of the school. Now, one of the rules of the school is not to cheat during the examination. Now, let's say, for example, if we have the situation, you have an exam scheduled today, but you are not prepared. Or let's say, wala ka kabalo nga naamong exam. But I mean, you haven't studied, kabalo ka nga naamoy exam, but you didn't study, wa ka nagtuon. Or let's say, you didn't study well. Nag-study ka, pero you haven't studied thoroughly or wala nimo na studyhan tanan lessons sa inyuhang module. Whether we admit it or not, in this given situation, we will be torn into two options. Either mag-cheat ka or dili. Am I correct or right?
Correct.
Am I correct or right?
Correct. Wait.
Right.
Okay, correct. Right or correct? It's just the same. All right. So, 'di ba? Sa kaninga situation, maturn ta into two decisions, either mag-cheat ta or dili. Now, what are the consequences di ay kung mag-cheat ta or dili? So, let's take a look on both sides for this given situation. If you cheat, there is a chance of getting caught and failed. If mag-cheat daw ka, there is a possibility or there is a chance that you will be caught or your teacher will cut you. And your teacher could decide na ihagbong ka or fail you in that exam since you haven't been honest. While on the other side, if you did not cheat, if you do not cheat, there is a possibility of failing gihapon. Why? Since you haven't know nga naamoy exam or you did not study, wa pud ka nag-study og tarong. See? So, 'di ba, no matter what choice you make in this situation, you always ended up compromising something. Or in either ways, na ay consequence. In either case, whether you cheat or not, you most likely to fail. So this is what dilemma means. Unlike sa other situations, karong game nga atong gi-present gaina before we start the discussion, it's just easy for us to decide nga kung unsa ang ato ang pilion. Unlike for situations that is considered as dilemma, mas lisod siya kay or dili ta makadili dali of decide since we need to consider lots of things or we need to weigh things out for us not to come up with a decision that we will regret at last. Nasabtan ba sa tanan?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, thank you. Now, since we already understood what a dilemma concept is, it would be easier for us to understand what is a moral dilemma. Moral dilemma are situations in which the decision maker must consider two or more moral values or duties that but can only honor one of them. Thus, the individual will violate at least one important moral concern regardless of the decision. So gaina we define moral and dilemma separately. Unsa ganitong moral? When we say moral, this refers to our personal concept as to para sa atua unsa ang right, unsa ang wrong. While dilemma, this refers to situations wherein maglisod ka to decide or you need to weigh things out for us to come up with a reasonable decision. So moral dilemmas in one, this means na a decision maker must consider two or more values. So she or he would consider two or more values. But since we could only choose one decision at a time in a given situation, then we could only honor one of them but violate at least or the other moral concern. For us to better understand moral dilemma, let's have this example. Let's say na ay sunog or na ay fire, and then you are in a situation or you are in between choosing saving the life of a dog or saving the life of your sister. If I were to ask you, what or unsa or kang kinsang life ang inyong pilion na inyong i-save?
Sa ako, sister D.
Anyone?
30. Sister T.
Okay. Yes, I agree. Okay, thank you. Yes, I agree. Sister. I guess most or majority will say, i-save na ko akong sister oy kay kuan man ni blood sister normally. Then madungog pa ba ko?
Bala lang imong tingog ko.
Ato di mo boses
This
D.
ako nag-stop.
Ako ante itong sister but itong situation.
Ah, okay. Hinay gid ang signal. Sorry kaayo, ma'am.
It's okay.
Wait lang, ma'am. All right, let's continue. So again, yes, majority may say na in this given situation, we will choose saving the life of our sister since we are bloodly related. Unless, or we, and other side, way of dealing with dilemma situations. We will be presenting a video. This is a test or morality test video nga they would provide situations nga kanang naapoy choices kung unsa ang decision or unsang action ang imong to choose given with a specific situation. So I want to ask everyone, you could please grab a piece of paper or and a ball pen para masulatan ninyo kung unsa nga letter ang inyong pilion as your decision in the specific situation. Please, palihog ko. And tell me if you're ready. We will present the video. Naana mo papel o ballpen?
Yes, the prayer.
Okay, thank you. So, mauni siya ang video. Madungog ba ninyo ang video? Okay. Sige, mag-start na ang video.
Should you or shouldn't you? The hardest morality test ever. Some choices are pretty easy. Coffee or tea, fries or onion rings, boxers or briefs. Others, however, are so hard that they seem almost impossible to make. We're specifically talking about moral dilemmas here, when both options just seem so unfair or undesirable, but something's got to be done. So get ready and calibrate your moral compass, because we've prepared the hardest test ever. It's full of moral dilemmas, and the way you solve them can speak volumes about your personality. After each question, you'll have 10 seconds to mull the situation over and come to a decision. Write down the letter of the answer you choose, A or B, to find out your results at the end of the video. And remember, this is just a quiz and not some session with a professional psychologist or anything. Hey, it's just me. So don't take it too seriously, okay? Number 1, a runaway train. Imagine that you're the conductor of a train that you've suddenly lost control of and is about to crash into a group of 5 innocent bystanders, totally unaware of their impending doom. They'll definitely be killed by the impact unless you throw a switch that can divert the train to another track. But in this case, it would run over an unsuspecting man who's sleeping on the rails. Would you be able to throw the switch? A, yes, easily. B, no way. I couldn't possibly do that with a clean conscience. Starting off strong, I see. Dang, what a tough choice. Perhaps those 5 people will notice the train and get out of harm's way. Should you risk it? You've got 10 seconds to decide. Number 2, a trolley out of control. A streetcar is out of control and speeding towards a group of 7 people. Okay, sounds familiar. Being on an overhead footbridge, you're not in danger. You see a big, bulky guy standing next to you, and you realize that if you push the man onto the track below the footbridge, it'll stop the trolley. However, the man will surely die. On the other hand, you'll save 7 innocent people. Would you sacrifice 1 life for 7? A, I'd do it without hesitation. B, I just couldn't take a life, even if it meant saving 7 other people. Well, they're not called moral dilemmas for nothing. What's the right thing to do here? If 10 seconds isn't enough to solve this problem, you can always pause the video. Number 3, a judge's dilemma. You're the judge at a trial of a bank robber who is in fact innocent, and you know it for sure. But at the moment, the enemies of the accused have kidnapped your 6-year-old daughter and are demanding that you convict the robber in return for her freedom. You have no idea where they're keeping her, and the police can't figure it out as well. You're a nervous wreck and can't help but think that the kidnappers will or already are abusing your child. Would you convict the innocent man to save your daughter? A, I would never convict an innocent person. I'd try to find another way to save my child. B, in a heartbeat. It's twice as difficult when a child, especially your own, is involved. Which alternative is your heart telling you to pick? Number 4, your best friend's wedding. You've been invited to your best friend's big day. 2 hours before the ceremony is supposed to start, you notice your friend's future spouse sneaking out of some storage room with another guest. They both look thoroughly disheveled, and you realize that they're having an affair. And here comes the dilemma. If you tell your friend what you found out, their perfect day will be completely ruined. At the same time, how can you allow your friend to marry somebody who's unfaithful? What would you do in such a situation? A, I'd tell my friend about the affair. Everybody deserves to know the truth. B, I wouldn't say anything. After all, my job is to support my friend's new beginnings. Plus, I could be mistaken. It's not a life or death choice. We need a break from those. But it's still a tough one. To make a friend unhappy but aware, or keep them blissfully ignorant. Five, reporting Robin Hood. You've witnessed a crime. A man robbed a bank and got away with it. However, he doesn't keep the money for himself. He instead donates it to an orphanage that's on the verge of bankruptcy. After his donation, the orphanage's management can buy clothes, books, medicine, and food for the kids. Well, you know who committed the crime, but you also know that if you go to the police, the money will most likely be returned to the bank and the orphans won't get what they desperately need. So, what do? A, a crime is a crime after all. I'd turn the robber into the police. B, this money was used for a noble purpose. I'd keep my silence. Which side will your moral compass take? No one said this would be easy. Number 6, a car crash and a killed pedestrian. You're on your way home from work one evening when you get into an accident with another car. Even worse, you've also hit and killed a pedestrian. However, as you're about to get out of your car, the driver of the other vehicle, a shocked woman in tears, runs toward you. Having heard her hysterical account of the event, you realize that the woman is absolutely convinced that it was she who killed the pedestrian, even though you know that you were responsible. Hey, there's nobody around, only the two of you. You understand that the person found guilty will, of course, be sent to prison. Knowing that, are you ready to own up to it? A. I would confess that it was my fault. How could I live knowing that an innocent person was convicted for something I did? B. I'd let the woman take the fall. I don't want to go to prison and spend years away from my family. Plus, maybe it really was her fault. Well, are you ready to face the music, or are you going to dodge this bullet? Choices, choices. We have one more question for you.
All right, thank you so much for listening. For this time, I want you to check your answers. That is, or there are 6 situations. So from 1 to 6, I want you to count or check kung asa ang mas daghan, ang A ba or B. Okay na?
A, B.
Okay na? Okay, so this is the result for the test based sa inyong mga answers.
It's the toughest one of all. But before we throw it your way, let's check the results of this impossible test. More A. If you chose more A's than B's, it means that you're a person who has a strict moral code, and you try to stick to your principles no matter what. You tend to thoroughly analyze a situation and choose the option that would be beneficial for more people, even if it wouldn't be for you personally. More B's. If you chose more B's, you usually make decisions under the influence of your emotions. You're not very able to act according to commonly accepted moral rules if the situation feels too personal to you.
All right, thank you. So that's the end of the video. So mo to ang result, ang A mo to ang na strict moral code. Well, the second one or the more B's, they are those persons na most of the time they give in easily to their emotions when deciding. Can I ask someone to share lang bisag quick sa ilahang results sa test? Naa ba si Miss Dabalos? Present ba si Miss Dabalos?
Sorry. Nawala ko.
Kuan. Anang sa base sa yung atong i-watch, what is the result? Sa ang result sa imo more A or more B?
Kuan siya, more A. Mas daghan akong A kaysa B.
Alright, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Dabalo. So, yeah, let's continue with our discussion. So, those situations presented sa video are just some of the dilemma situations that we could encounter in our lives. So, I guess you will agree with me na those situations dili or maglisod ka kung asa ka nga choices ang atong pilion kay kanang it's a bit tricky manggod kato nga mga situation like daghan kag i-consider. So, what are we going to do, DI, if we are faced with moral dilemma? As we all know, moral dilemma typically involves situations in which this is a difficult decision. So, when faced with a moral dilemma, there are many factors to consider. So, there are 2 of the recommendations that we could use to help us figure out or to make a reasonable decision. So first is use logic instead of emotions. We all know na it is very um kuan sikat ang moing or kanang ginainan ka nga you should not decide or make decision if you are angry or you are sad or you are in unstable emotion. Why? Kay if madala ta sa ato ang or madani ta sa ato ang emotion, there's a big possibility na at the end we would regret on what decision we made from that given situation. So thinking logically can help a person calm down and relax instead of being too emotionally charged from recent decision. So instead of giving in or using our emotions in making decisions, we need to use our logic. Logic means we will be kanang atong scrutinize ang specific situation. We could as well, or by using as well logic, mas makabuhat ta og reasonable decision since we could stable ourselves or we could calm down and relax. Then from that, when we use our logic, mas ma-analyze nato ang situation. Like we could consider both sides. So that would be that will result or make a reasonable decision at the end. Well, for the second recommendation, weigh the pros and cons of each decision. In this case, logic dictates that the fewest number of cons is likely to result in the best decision. Weighing pros and cons, in other words, we need to look on the other side. If we are faced with moral dilemma, hindi lang ka dapat mahimong one-sided. Instead, kailangan natong tanawon both sides. If ever kang kani nga decision ang akong pilion, what would be its result? Or unsa ang mahitabo kinsay maapektuhan ng anak? And also, we should as well consider or look on the other side. What if pud kani nga decision ang akong pilion? Mas daghan ba ang maapektuhan? Mas nindot ang iyang effect if kani ang decision nga akong pilion? So in this recommendation, it states na the fewest number of cons, ang pinakagamay na negative impact sa duha ka situation, that is most likely the reasonable decision na dapat natong pilion. Dili ta mag-regret on sa last. So for us to better understand, for instance, let's say a person works together with his best friend in a retail store and then he witnessed or he saw her best friend stealing some money from a store safe. Then iyang i-confront ang iyahang friend para ibalik ang kwarta. But then his friend or his best friend refused or wala siya ning tugon. You would be torn or ikaw nga naka-witness na asa imo kung imong isumbong ang imong friend or sa inyong manager, or you will just remain silent about it. If we will be considering both sides, that is weighing the pros and cons. First, if you isumbong ang imong best friend, ay possibility na you would lose your friendship forever. Diba? Since you have been best friends for a long time. So if ever makalans imong best friend nga gisumbong nimo siya, then there's a big possibility na mawala ang inyong friendship. On the other hand, or on the other side of the situation, if dili nimo isumbong, like you will just ingon lang ka nga, ay mag-uwan lang po lang na ko siya isumbong kay makaya raman po na sa company nga come up with the profit, magikawat sa imong best friend. We don't know nga time will come, mag-bankrupt ang inyong company, like will kanang less lang inyong profit. So kanang without telling nga dili masakpan ng imong best friend, you also compromise the situation or the situation sa usa ka company. Nasabtan any questions? Wala lagi manog. Alright, so let's proceed na since wala na may nag question. So for the next one, discussions of the scenarios, kani nga mga scenarios mao to ang mga scenarios presented on the video. We will call Miss Archel Ann for the first three. Please. Naano siya? Okay na ka?
Okay. Pero nag-echo. Sige na. So, hello everyone. Good morning. So, as continuation of the report of the video being presented as our basis about the discussion of the scenario presented. So, the person involved to act in the following scenarios are faced to process the following questions. So, there are 4 questions that we must always consider before we make a final ethical decision in a difficult situation that we must have a concrete action to perform. So, the first question is, next. Does the situation involve moral dilemma? So, ang situation ba na sangkot ba siya sa moral dilemma? Then, as discussed earlier, no? Sa anyone nga makakuan sa ganitong moral dilemma? Sa inyo lang na remember. Again, what is moral dilemma, no? So as discussed earlier, it is a situation in which a difficult decision must be made regarding the choices we choose, the right from wrong. And we know that, of course, no, in every decision we make, there's no easy or correct choice in this kind of situation. So if the dilemma affects the well-being of a person, then certainly it is moral dilemma. Next, personal moral dilemma. So, personal moral dilemma means no matter what choice you make in the situation, you always end up compromising moral value. So, naagi ka sacrifice. Then, ang imo sacrifice is your moral value. So, what is moral values? Value is our principle of right and wrong na tagaan din nato. So like sa example sa video na kita, no? In the first scenario, which is a runaway train. So, let's imagine nga kita ang driver sa train. No? Then, but suddenly, we lost control of, like the video, and is about to crash into a group of 5 innocent bystanders. No? That of course, wala sila kabalo nga possible na ang train kay maikot sa ila and definitely of course na mamatay sila. But unless kita nga driver, of course, atong i-switch ang button, i-divert into another track. Pero napoy natulog nga unsuspecting man nga natulog dito sa rail train. So, unsa man dayon ang choice na imong buhaton? No? Then, that time na dayon mo come up ang personal moral dilemma, which is ikaw mismo ang mo come up or mo pili sa choices sa usa ka situation. Then, organizational moral dilemma. So, it is all about how to match discrepancy between individual needs and aspiration on the one hand, and the organizational goals on the other. Sorry, so itugma nato no ang difference sa personal needs and atong mga desire, ambition, or mga goals sa organizational goals, which is the expected outcome of, let's say, a business. No? Like for example, nga sa scenario between kita as an employee na nagtrabaho sa isa ka kumpanya. Then of course, nga kita ang employee natay mga rules nga gisunod, and ang CEO or the chief executive officer or the board members ang kahin that they considering whether to lay off or magtanggal of some employees or not. Which of course, maapektuhan ta. Like if possible nga kita ang mapili no atong personal needs and desire nga of course maapektuhan jud ta kay naman tay mga panginahanglan pod. Pero maapektuhan pod ang organization kay nawalan man sila employee nga which is naka-benefit sila sa skills o knowledge nga atong nag-contribute sa kumpanya. And that's organizational moral dilemma mean. Magkaugnay ang pagpapahatan ng decision or sa conclusion dili ang pod sa lang decision. Then, structural moral dilemma. It pertains to any cases or of perspective of networks, sectors, groups, and institutions that may affected by the decision. So, daghan na ang involved sa decision na dapat buhatan ng conclusion. That's what structural mean. Dapat nagkaugnay-ugnay na siya. And of course, ang person is high level position in the society or nation. Like for example, no, a scenario or situation between the lawmakers ang tagahimo ng law, the SSS or Social Security System executives, ang tagapamahala sa SSS, and the former president, pati na president na high level na position ng nation. Tackle the issue about the pensions. So, familiar naman ta sa word the pensions is a regular payment made during retirement, especially sa public na trabaho, no? Sa teacher, like that. So, next, question number 2. What is the level of involvement of the person involved in the situation? So, sa mga example ganina, no? Sa may mga person ato nga involved. Atong personal moral dilemma.
Driver.
Isa man. Yes, driver, no? Which is siya ang naka-defect na may problem. Also po, siya ang dapat na ay buhaton. Then also po, sa organizational moral dilemma, kinsay miracle. Kinsay person na involved sa situation. Sa organizational moral dilemma. So dito no, sa organizational moral dilemma, ang na-involve ato kay ang CEO o board members. Then dito po sa structural moral dilemma, ang na-involve po kay ang lawmakers, SSS executive, the former president nga responsible sila dapat sa ilang buhaton nga decision. So, moral agent. So, the term of moral agent, it is a person who has the ability to discern what is wrong, to held accountable for his or her own action. So, ang tawag rin ato mga tao nga involved sa scenario, katong president, si president, ang driver, the CEO, ang tawag nila moral agent, which is na sila'y kakayahan na o recognize sa tama o mali to help unapod sila'y pananagutan, no? As also po have a more responsibility not to cause unjustified harm. So kanang wala tay Dapat dapat reasonable po. Okay? Sila ang gahimo ng decision as they are the person nga po involved sa pagbuhat ng decision. The next, third question. Third question is, who are the people that may be affected by the implication of the moral situation or by our concrete choice of action? So, kinsa man ang maapektuhan or madamay sa choice nga atong napili nga pata ng action. Dapat una-unaon jud nato nga kung kinsa ang maapektuhan. So, the term stakeholders forces us to give consideration to people aside from ourselves. So, dapat una-unaon jud pud nato ang uban no, dili sa kayang atong kaugalingon to come up with our chosen conclusion or action. We must always thought carefully about others and not be selfish. Dili ta kay magkuan lang. Ato lang kaugalingon. That's why we must be responsible of like to recognize other people, no? As we all live in the world with a purpose. So we have to think reasons aside from ourselves, serving, wants to come up our conclusion that are impartial in the sense that they take consideration of everyone's welfare to self thoroughly involved. So dapat maguna-una po ta sa kinsay possible nga maapektuhan. Then that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Archel. So for the fourth and fifth, can I call Miss Arabella, please?
Hi guys. So I am the reporter for the topic for the question number 4 and 5. So what is the ethical issue at hand? When we say ethical issue, it occurs when a given decision, scenario, or activity creates a conflict with the society's moral principles. So both individuals and businesses can be involved in this conflict since any of their activities may be put into question from an ethical standpoint. So when we say ethical issue, ito ay kadalasan nangyayari kapag ang isang ibinigay na desisyon, senaryo, or aktibidad ay lumikha ng isang salungatan sa moral na mga prinsipyo ng isang lipunan. It means that if a certain person make a decision and then tapos against yung society sa decision niya kasi need nila sundin yung moral principle ng isang lipunan. That's why people should know and be aware of the existence of moral principles because they serve as the guidelines that people live by to make sure that they're doing the right thing. So after establishing the facts and identifying the stakeholders and their concerns in the matter, we must determine whether the action is morally right or wrong. So we need moral principles as basis of our reasonings and to justify actions committed in dealing with a dilemma. So we all know that making a moral conclusion or decision is very difficult sometimes, especially when the situation can not only affect yourself but also others. That is why before making a decision on whether the action is whether the action or the situation is morally right or wrong, we must base our reasoning on moral principles so that we can justify the action that deals with a dilemma. So, in making a decision kasi, napakahirap talaga niyan, lalo na if ang sitwasyon ay hindi lamang makaka-apekto sa iyong sarili but also sa kapakanan ng iba. That's why it should be analyzed at pag-isipan mabuti ang bawat desisyon na iyong isasagawa. So, these moral principles can be tackled with in the succeeding lessons. We need to know whether it is wrong or not to let the train run over 1 instead of 5. When the choices are boiled down into 2, is it right to lay off employees if the company experiences financial setbacks? Or it is all right to raise the pension or if the institution will go bankrupt in the long run? So in this situation, as we can see, it needs to be properly analyzed because in some circumstances kasi, the presence of the problem can be rationally demonstrated. So the approach based on the value theory, choose the option that provides the greater good or the lesser evil. So, sa dilemma na pinakita kanina, or ang tatlong dilemma daw na ibinigay sa pahayag ay nangangailangan ng mas malalim na pag-iisip kung ano ang pinakamagandang gawin na magbubunga ng isang mabuting desisyon at aksyon. So, what is moral principles? When we say moral principles, it is a guidelines that people live by to make sure that they're doing the right thing. This includes like honesty, fairness, and also equality. So, it can be different for everyone because they depend on how a person was raised and what is important to them in life. So, when we say moral principles, ito ay ang mga pamantayan sa lipunan na nagpapahiwatig kung ano ang dapat gawin ng mga tao o kung ano ang dapat nilang iwasan. Hindi rin sila tumutukoy sa mga particular na sitwasyon. Sa makatuwid, maaari silang bigyang kahulugan. Next is types of moral principles. There are two types of moral principles, the absolute and the relative. When we say absolute moral principles, it is based on universal truths about the nature of human beings. It is the standard against which the morality of an action can be judged. So, ito ay isang ethical na pananaw na ang ilang mga aksyon ay nilasa tama or mali. Halimbawa, mag-ingat sa iyong sinasabi at ginagawa sa iba kasi baka bumalik sa iyo yung mga ginagawa mo. So, sa madaling salita, absolute moral principles ay ang katotohanan tungkol sa paniniwala ng mga tao or yung mga beliefs nila. Next is the relative moral principles. When we say relative moral principles naman, it is based on opinions and circumstances that may change over time or from person to person or for different situations. So it is depend on a person's beliefs. They believe that there are no absolute rules to what is wrong or right. And that moral principles can change depending on the situation. So it means that yung opinion mo or yung mga paninindigan mo. For example, me and my friend talks about abortion. And then para sa akin, I believe that abortion is morally wrong. Yun yung standpoint ko doon. Or yun yung paniniwala ko. Or yun yung paninindigan kong paniniwala na masama ang abortion. But then, friend ko naman, yung paniniwala niya or her own opinion is okay sa kanya ang abortion. Or para sa kanya, walang mali sa abortion because she believes that her body, her rules. So, yun yung standpoint niya doon or yun yung mga paniniwala niya. So, sa madaling salita, relative moral principles is all about your mga paninindigan or yun yung mga paniniwala mo or your own opinion. Next. The final step is for the individual to make their ethical conclusion or decision whether in judging what ought to be done in a given case or in coming up with a concrete action she must actually perform. So, what is an ethical conclusion or decision? Next step. So, what is an ethical conclusion or decision? So, when we say ethical decision making, it is refers to the process of evaluating and choosing among alternatives in a manner consistent with ethical principles. So, when we are making ethical decisions, it is necessary to perceive and eliminate unethical options and also select the best ethical alternative. So, ethical is a process daw ng isang desisyon na tumutukoy sa pagsusuri at pagpili sa mga alternative or alternatibong paraan na naaayon sa mga prinsipyong ethical. So that is why when you're making a decision kasi, it should be undergoing the process. So real ethical decisions are often very difficult enough to make and for action and for so many different reasons. So not all the facts in a given case may be available to the agent for consideration because some facts may be eventually turn out to be misleading or not true at all. And so the agent's vigilance and meticulousness in establishing the facts will always be tested in a given ethical situation. Next. Next pa. So, what is the difference between ethical and unethical? So, ethics differentiate between good and bad conduct, right? So, when we say since ethical and unethical adjectives, they can be used in front of words like issues, behavior, conduct, practices, and etc. Also, all these are related to the behavior or conduct of personal life of people. So, as we can see, ang parehong mga term, makikita natin na ang mga ito ay nag-uugnay sa moral at ugali ng mga tao or ng isang individual. So, parehong tinutukoy ng mga term na ito ang moral at immoral na mga prinsipyo ng isang lipunan at nakakatulong ang mga ito sa pagkakaiba ng mabuting gawa ng masama. So, when we say ethical, it can be defined as being morally correct or peaceful. So, being ethical daw helps an individual to have a well-standard life and he or she may be referred in the society as well. So, ito ay isang pag-ugali na nakakatulong sa maayos na paggana ng lipunan at pinapanatili din nito ang pagkakaisa at kapayapaan sa mga miyembro ng lipunan. For example, it is considered ethical para sa mga doktor na pangalagaan ang sino mang pasyente or anuman ang kasarian nito, lahi o nasyonalidad. That's right, because we should always treat other people fairly and we need to respect them, whether what gender, race, or nationality. They deserve to be respected fairly and treat them fairly and also respect them. Yan yung ethical. Yan yung ethical. So, next is unethical. It is the opposite of being ethical. A person who lacks moral principles can be defined as an ethical person. So, an ethical situation of individuals who refuse to adhere to the proper conduct or the accepted behavioral pattern of the society. So, ito daw ay aksyon na maaaring may kamalayan sa kanyang maling pag-ugali. Kaya ang mga isyong ethical at hindi ethical ay may kaugnayan sa moral at pag-ugali ng isang tao. For example, itinuturing na it is considered unethical para sa mayayaman na pagsamantalahan ang mahirap para sa kanilang nalalaman. Imagine, yung mahirap yung nagsisikap tapos yung mga rich people or yung mga mayayaman lang yung nakikinabang. Let's try to yung sa mga politicians, bang kinukurakot nila yung pera ng bayan. So, yun sa mga ethical behavior na kita natin. So, ethical decisions and actions are frequently difficult to make implemented. It is because not all in a given case are ethical. They can also be unethical. Creating good ethical decisions requires develop responsiveness to the ethical issues. So, a process for analyzing the ethical aspects of a decision and considering factors that should influence our conclusion. So, as people or ang bawat individual ay kailangan gumawa ng isang ethical conclusion o decision bago gumawa ng isang concrete action na dapat niyang actual na gawin dahil itong patunayan ay mas mahusay na mga desisyon and create or lumikha ng mga positive epekto also driven us away mula sa hindi magkaroon ng mga resulta. That's all. Thank you.
This audio 3, this is presented by G21FMA.
Okay, so I think everything, aside from the internet interruption and at the beginning, the reporter, the energy of the reporter was kuan and then nagkadugay na pinahilan siya. Aside from that, everything was good. The reporters was able to discuss their topic, their lesson, and then we have this what we call interaction with the audience or with their students as well. Okay, so additional for your discussion, how are we going to discern moral dilemma? Actually, we do experience dilemma, especially personal moral dilemma. It is very common for us as a student, as a child, sa iyong animalay or as a instructor. I've always experienced personal dilemma. Yes, practically speaking, I do the I always use logic as what I earlier is that ethically speaking, we should use our logic, not our emotions. Am I right? Yes, that is correct. In this situation, we should not use our emotions, especially if we are dealing a personal dilemma. Say, for example, you are planning class with typical dati, so you have two boyfriend. One is wala trabaho, ang isa na ay trabaho. So you are already facing a dilemma. That's what we call personal dilemma. As we are with our own dilemma, organizational structure, if we say organizational is a dilemma from organization. If it is structural, it is a dilemma from our society, since it is very common stick to the personal moral dilemma. Okay, so you're planning to settle down, you have two boyfriends. The first one ay trabaho, ang isa na ay trabaho. So you are already facing personal moral dilemma. As for me, I do that. I also use my logic and also my emotion. We are only human, diba? We cannot always use logic. What was the proper way of deciding the dilemma? What was the proper decision? Sometimes I usually use our emotions with us, especially in kung ano relatively, we always use our emotions, but classically speaking, always use logic. Amo din pwede magpagkaidaw ng sa trabaho. So you have another one is you will have to know the use the concept process. You have to list down what would be the consequences of that decision. Amoy nakakapilion. Okay, so kung ano ako sa iyan kay trabaho, so mga anak ko, hindi makakabukan na. So how do we live our the rest of our life? Decision kami, sipon naman. Anyway, kung ako sa may trabaho, ang lawa, dahil mag-develop dayon. So we have to list down yung madalaw na mga consequences na pwede ano pa yung maitabubuya ko ng decision ang apat tuloy. So as for me, I use that number 1 and 2, and then I always add personal lang, para sa ako lang, additional na lang. And always, after using this 1 and 2, yung logic and then the process also, I always ask God. I always pray. After that one, I always pray and let God to decide for me in discerning my personal moral dilemma. So always ask God and assign ng panginoon mas madalaw. Ethically speaking, gusto is less naman. I always ask God. For me, it's my principle man. It's up to you what you will deal with your personal dilemma. It's very common to us as a person dilemma. Okay, so the reporters are very good. They really actually nalinaw ko sa ilang report and I felt like I am also listening to the report and as a doctor overall, I am not very expert to this lesson, but at I have some points, that na honest ako. Okay, so congratulations, supporters, very excellent set convention interaction. Ang energy ay at the beginning, mataas ang energy. Pagka-graduate ay agad. Then, for excellent habits, congratulations. The next supporter, next meeting, I'll see you. And then guys, thank you for bringing. I still have